What if I told you that the next 90 days could rewrite the story of your entire life? Not improve it a little, not help you feel motivated for a week. I mean rewrite it, like someone took a thick black marker to the excuses, the hesitation, the fog in your mind, and crossed it out forever. If you felt that in your chest just now, good, because this is not a speech. This is a line in the sand. And on the other side of that line is the person you were always meant to be. August 2025. The air still feels like summer, but the energy doesn't. You know that strange quiet after the noise of a season, when everyone posts their last beach day and back to the grind selfies, and then somehow the grind never quite starts? That was me. The calendar said new month, my body said I'm tired, my mind said maybe tomorrow, and my heart whispered, if you don't change now, you won't change at all. I didn't have a dramatic movie moment, no thunderclap, no catastrophic loss. It was something smaller and scarier. Stillness. I woke up one Tuesday, stared at my phone for an hour, scrolled through other people's victories, other people's bodies, other people's businesses, then got up to make coffee and realized the cup felt heavier than it should. Not because it was full, but because I was empty. That was the rock bottom. The quiet kind. The is this it kind. The I'm in the room but I feel like a ghost kind. That night I went down a rabbit hole of speeches and stories, looking for a spark, not a quote to slap on a wallpaper, a philosophy to live by. I kept landing on Denzel Washington, and the more I listened, the more a pattern emerged beneath the applause lines. It wasn't just talent, it wasn't luck. It was a ruthless honesty about failure, an obsession with consistency, and a steady, unshakable alignment with something bigger than himself. Fall forward, commitment and consistency. Put God first. Simple words. But in his delivery, they weren't slogans, they were laws, and the laws were calling me out. So I made a decision I could measure, not a dream I could romanticize. A decision, 90 days, not 90, I'll try, 90 documented non-negotiable days, physical, mental, spiritual, a 90-day unstoppable experiment, with me as the test subject and the rest of my life as the control group. If you've ever felt stuck in second gear, consider this your ignition key, because from here on, it's personal. Before I tell you what happened, you need to know the blueprint. I didn't enter this blind. I took those principles and made them walk. Fall forward, not don't be afraid to fail. That's cute on a t-shirt. This means I would fail aggressively and use it. If I missed a workout, I wouldn't drift into self-hate. I'd write down why I missed it, what decision chain led there, and how to block that trap tomorrow. Defeat became data. Pain became programming notes. I stopped pretending I should be perfect and started studying my imperfections like a scientist. The shame lifted. The work got honest. Freedom. Maybe you've heard it before, but until you live it, it sounds like a paradox. I told myself 3 daily non-negotiables that would happen whether I felt like it or not. A morning routine that began before the sun. A sweat session that hit my lungs hard enough to make my legs argue. And a focused work block where the phone stayed in another room like a misbehaving child. The first days were ugly, yawning, stiff, clumsy. But something begins to glow when you show up for yourself without negotiation. Momentum. It's real. Put God first. I had to answer a deeper question than how do I look? Or how much did I accomplish? Why am I doing this? What am I aligning with? My version of God first was simple. Gratitude before goals, prayer before pressure, a single minute of stillness every morning where I said out loud, thank you. I will steward this day well. Purpose isn't a lightning strike, it's a daily plug-in. I stopped trying to manufacture meaning and started connecting to it. Armed with that philosophy, I stepped into day one. No triumphant montage, no instant transformation, just an alarm clock that sounded unnecessarily confident at 5 a.m. and a person who did not. I sat on the edge of my bed and had the first argument of the 90 days with myself. My body offered a powerfully reasoned case for going back to sleep. My mind added supporting evidence. You can start tomorrow. My spirit, though faint, objected, and somehow I stuck. The first weeks were the kind of war that doesn't make highlight reels. Changing habits is less like flipping a switch and more like wading through wet cement. Everything resisted. The gym felt like a courtroom and every rep felt like cross-examination. I negotiated with the treadmill like it owed me money. I failed at no phone before noon by 8:17 a.m., 3 days in a row. I learned that when you remove one dopamine stream, your brain goes prospecting for another. Suddenly cleaning the fridge felt urgent. Replying to low-stakes emails felt heroic. That wasn't laziness. It was a primitive alarm system trying to drag me back to comfort. So I built guardrails. The phone slept in the kitchen. My running shoes lived beside the bed like 2 small soldiers waiting for orders. I laid my clothes out the night before and made the choice early so the morning version of me couldn't weasel out. I pre-wrote my first 3 tasks on an index card and taped it to the desk, and not 10 tasks, 3. Start small, win early, build from there. The fatigue surprised me, not the muscle kind. The mental weight of making quality decisions repeatedly. Decision fatigue is real. So I took the decision out. Alarm rings? Feet on floor. No internet till noon? Router off. The path of least resistance became the path to the routine itself. The world stopped being a negotiation and started being a sequence. There were small embarrassments I won't glamorize. I skipped a leg day and pretended it was active recovery, then had to write in my journal in capital letters, "You can't lie to yourself and expect results." I cooked a healthy dinner that might as well have been dessert and had to relearn that labels don't equal fuel. I spent an hour planning a system instead of doing it, and the only thing that got shredded that day was my illusion. Fall forward. I kept saying it and then doing the part that matters, getting back up. Somewhere around the second week, I noticed an invisible thermostat shifting. The mornings weren't easy, but they weren't a fistfight anymore. The run didn't feel shorter, but it felt simpler. One foot, then the other. That's it. You don't have to be magnificent, you have to be moving. The first time I looked in the mirror and saw not a new body but a new posture, I smiled. Shoulders back, eyes clear, not "I've arrived," just "I am arriving." My work changed too. There's a clean, almost surgical focus that appears when you protect your mornings. With the phone silent in another room, the world shrank to me, a notebook, and the next step. It's like clearing static from a radio. Suddenly you can hear your own frequency. Ideas that used to feel heavy flowed in single sentences. Projects that felt like mountains became staircases. The freedom I wanted, to say yes to friends without guilt, to stop at sunset and feel done. It wasn't canceled by discipline. It was created by it. I won't pretend the middle of the experiment was all sunrise aesthetics and motivational music. Around the fifth week, boredom tried to slip a key into the back door. Routine does that. You climb out of chaos and find yourself in a quiet hallway with nothing to fight but the echo of your own feet. Progress slows. The mirror becomes stingy. The scale tells jokes. The brain whispers, maybe it's time for something new. That's when people quit. Not when it's hard, when it's dull. So I added friction to the boredom and novelty to the grind. I swapped the route of my run to a hill I once avoided. I changed the playlist to silence and made myself listen to my breathing like a metronome. I made workouts appointments on the calendar like a meeting with someone I respect, because I do respect this version of me, and I refuse to no-show on my own future. I turned my why into something I could touch, a photo on my wall of a person I love, and beneath it a sentence handwritten, "Make them proud." Every time the routine felt gray, that sentence colored it in. Then the breakthroughs, not fireworks, flickers that didn't burn out. I caught myself laughing more, not because life suddenly got easy, but because my nervous system wasn't constantly on alert anymore. Anxiety lost a little oxygen. I noticed I was less reactive. The gap between trigger and response widened just enough to breathe inside it. I would get cut off in traffic and feel the familiar heat rise, and then watch it pass like a wave that couldn't quite reach the shore. That's not accidental. That's neural rewiring. Consistency carves paths in your brain that motivation can't touch. On a random Thursday, I ran further than I had planned without noticing. My legs were protesting, but the protest didn't come with panic, just information. You're tired. Cool. Keep going. I looked down at my watch and realized I had entered a zone I hadn't visited in years, not survival. Flow. That's the dividend of showing up when nobody's cheering. That's the quiet interest your habits pay out when the market of your emotions is down. People began to say small things. You look lighter. They weren't talking about weight. They were talking about the way I walked into a room. When you keep promises to yourself, you carry your head like it's holding something valuable, because it is. And people notice, not the loud look at me confidence, the still kind, the kind that listens more than it speaks, the kind that says, I'm not here to perform, I'm here to be. Spiritually, the changes were deeper than I expected. Put God first isn't a public posture, it's a private alignment. When I put gratitude before goals, the goals started behaving. I wasn't bargaining with the universe anymore, I was partnering. I would sit for 60 seconds, not 10 minutes, not an hour, just 60 seconds, and say, thank you for the breath, the body, the chance, help me use it with integrity. That minute did more to stabilize my day than any hack I've ever tried. Purpose lubricates discipline. When you remember who you're doing it for, the what stops squeaking. Of course, sabotage shows up in clever disguises. A late-night invitation that looks harmless but bites your morning. A rest day that turns into 2, then 3. A voice that says, you're doing great, you've earned a little slippage. That voice is not your friend. It's your comfort, dressed as your care. So I gave myself a phrase to slice through it. earned momentum doesn't mean permanent momentum. You can't store today's discipline in tomorrow's jar. You have to pour it fresh. By the time the 8th week closed, the data told a story even my inner critic couldn't argue with. Sleep deeper, resting heart rate lower, clothes fitting like they remembered who they were made for, a calendar filled with fewer things, but the right things. Work blocks where I did in 90 minutes what used to take me half a day. Even the house felt different. When your internal world organizes, your external world tends to follow. Drawers get cleaned, dishes don't linger. You stop being allergic to the small action because you're no longer intimidated by the big mission. And yet, there was a storm I didn't forecast. Because when you grow, the world doesn't quietly applaud. It tests your foundations. Old friends called with old stories. Come on, you can miss one morning. A project exploded at the worst time. My body threw a small rebellion after a week of new personal bests. Tightness here, tenderness there, the kind that whispers, "Sit down." That's when Denzel's other idea thumped in my chest like a drum. Without commitment, you'll never start. Without consistency, you'll never finish. I had started, now I was going to finish. So the plan evolved. Not work harder, work wiser. I doubled down on recovery like it was part of the workout, because it is. Sleep became non-negotiable sacred ground. I stretched even when the ego said, "That's not training." I learned to end sessions when the form slipped, not when my pride said, "One more." I traded intensity spikes for sustainable cadence, and I chose integrity over image every single time. That choice, that's freedom. Listen. If you've been waiting for your sign, this is it. Not because I'm special, because I'm not, and that's the point. The way I felt in August, tired of my own excuses, a little ashamed of my own potential, scrolling past my own life. That's not unique. That's epidemic. But so is the cure. The medicine is bitter in the beginning. Then it becomes sweet. The medicine is simplicity. You don't need a trick, you need a track. One you can run even when the weather is bad. Here's the truth I didn't want to accept, and when I finally did, it liberated me. Self-respect is a receipt. You don't download it. You earn it, one action at a time. And the moment you stop paying, the balance drops. But when you pay daily, it compounds. And after enough days, you stop having to convince yourself you're worth it. You feel it when you wake up. If you're still with me, I know why. Because something in you is done with maybe. Something in you is done with almost. You want your own 90 days. Not because mine are perfect, they're not, but because you can see your reflection in this fight. You can feel your stronger self clearing their throat in the back of the room saying, "It's time." So what does unstoppable look like in the final quarter of this experiment? It's not a sprint to the finish line with dramatic music and a perfect sunset. It's a deeper gear, fewer words, more presence. It's walking into the room where temptation keeps a desk and moving the furniture. It's showing up on a rainy Tuesday with the same quiet conviction you had on day one, multiplied by all the days you didn't break. It's loving people better because you're not trying to pull love out of them to patch a hole in you. It's going to bed peacefully because your day told the truth. And yes, it's results. The kind you can feel, see, measure. Mental clarity like a clean windshield. Physical changes that don't scream, "Look at me," but whisper, "I'm back." Productivity that isn't manic but precise. Anxiety that still knocks sometimes but doesn't get to live here rent-free. A purpose that doesn't bark orders, it extends a hand. I promised you a plan, not just poetry. So as I stepped into the last stretch, the place where most people fade, where the initial applause is long gone and the goals are close enough to see, I made a vow. I won't coast across the line. I will lean into it. I will make these final weeks a masterclass in staying power. The goal is not to finish. The goal is to become a person who doesn't need a finish line to keep going. And now, I'm going to talk to you, because this is where your story snaps into mine like two pieces of the same trail. You don't need 10 new habits. You need a single courageous start and 3 daily non-negotiables. Pick a wake time and protect it like it's payroll. Pick a movement practice and respect it like it's medicine. Pick a focused block and guard it like it's oxygen. Put gratitude before goals. Rebuke shame and replace it with study. Miss a day? Don't lose 2. Fall forward. Keep the data, not the drama. And whisper the truth when it's dark. Discipline is how I love my future self. If this has been a mirror, don't walk away from it. Do one small thing right now that your tomorrow self would thank you for. Fill the water bottle, lay out the shoes, set the alarm. Write day 1 on a sticky note and put it on your bathroom mirror like a contract. Then, in the comments, tell me your day 1. not to impress anyone, to declare it, to turn a private wish into a public promise. We'll check back. We'll build this together. Community is a cheat code, use it. And if this voice has carried you even an inch closer to your better self, lock it in. Subscribe so you don't drift back to the noise. Hit like so the algorithm remembers to hand you your own focus back tomorrow. Share this with someone you love who needs a hand in the dark. Keep the momentum. Keep the signal strong. We're not here for one viral moment. We're here for a viral life. I'll leave you with a question that has been haunting me, in the best way, every night before I sleep. And it's the question that turned this entire experiment into a promise. When the future version of you watches the next 90 days of your life like a movie, will they be proud to have your name in the credits? Take a breath. Put your feet on the floor. The scene is rolling. Day one begins the moment you decide, and mine started with a whisper, "Let's go." So I didn't stop at the whisper, I raised it. Here's what happened after that last scene cut. When the music fades and all that's left is you, a clock, and a choice. Day 43 slipped into day 57, then to day 61, like a river learning its own curves. And somewhere in that quiet current, I hit the most dangerous terrain of any transformation. The stretch where you're good enough to coast, where comfort pretends to be care and whispers, "Ease up, you've earned it." That lie is soft, warm, persuasive, and it almost had me. It started on a Monday I could have sworn was a Sunday. Slept a little late, skipped the cold rinse because it felt optional. Didn't pray right away, told myself I'd connect later. The workout still happened, but it was a handshake instead of a grip. The work block still happened, but it was a polite meeting instead of a mission. I closed my laptop at sunset and felt strangely unaccomplished. Not because I did nothing, because I did everything halfway. That evening, I wrote in my journal the sentence that saved the next 30 days. Half efforts steal whole dreams. I underlined it 3 times, and then I made a deal with myself for the final quarter. Finish strong enough that even your excuses stand and clap. Weeks 9 through 12 taught me something I had never truly understood. When the body gets stronger, the mind tries to talk it out of going further. When the mind gets stronger, the body throws little tantrums. A tight hamstring here, a phantom ache there, not injuries, alarms. The old system begging for the old ceiling. That's when I stopped chasing PRs and started chasing something deeper. Perfect form in imperfect conditions. If the set called for 8 reps and my pride wanted 10, I kept the 8, with the kind of form that makes gravity respect you. If a run felt sluggish, I held cadence and breathed on purpose. The point wasn't to show off to a camera that wasn't there. The point was to become someone who doesn't break when the spotlight leaves. Midway through week 10, I hit what I can only call a spiritual plateau. Not doubt, not darkness, just a dull gray that makes gratitude feel like a chore. I sat there staring at my quiet mind like a locked door. Nothing happened, and I realized that was the lesson. You don't put God first because fireworks go off. You do it because order creates peace. That minute didn't have to dazzle me to shape me. It just had to be first. So I kept it first. Thank you for breath. Thank you for chances. Help me steward the next hour with integrity. Then I moved. And funny thing, that the peace always arrived later, out of nowhere, like a kind friend who doesn't knock, just leaves a warm meal on your porch. I promised you a real battle log, not a highlight reel, so here are the moments I didn't want to tell you about, the ones that made the experiment honest. Day 64, I slept through the alarm. Not overslept by 5 minutes. I mean, the phone looked me in the face at 7:32 like, you missed your date with destiny. Old me would have written the whole day off. Ruined. Start tomorrow. That's the poison. New me stumbled to the sink, splashed water, and said out loud, yes, out loud, fall forward. Morning lost? Cool. Midday, I'm yours. I broke the day into sprints, 20-minute prayer walk with my phone still exiled to the kitchen, 40 minutes of sweat with focus so clean it felt like apology and amends, 90 minutes of deep work that tasted like redemption. I didn't save the day, I used it. Shame wants you to toss the whole apple if one bite is bruised. Discipline says cut around it and eat the rest. Day 68 brought an invitation that was really a test. Come out, it's just one late night. The people were good people. The energy would have been fun, but the price was due in the morning, and I had already budgeted those hours. I almost said yes. Then I saw in my mind 2 versions of tomorrow. One where I was dragging my feet through molasses, one where I was in the cool stream of my routine, and I said something I had been afraid to say my entire life, no, and thank you. Boundaries are love letters to your future. I woke up the next day and every cell in my body wrote back, received. Day 71 reminded me that progress is not a straight graph you can brag about. It's a messy sketch with arrows and scribbles and coffee stains. I went to the gym underslept, overconfident, and ran into a wall I set up myself. The weight that moved last week laughed at me. The mile that felt fluid turned to gravel. I was tempted to push through because the ego hates stepping down. Instead, I stepped sideways. I swapped intensity for quality. I chose technique over noise. And here's the beautiful violence of that choice. The next day, my numbers jumped again. Not because I forced them, because I respected my nervous system. The freedom is in the form. By week 11, my environment was changing to match my intent. This always happens when you stop negotiating with yourself. Life starts negotiating with you differently. People stopped offering me the old temptations. My calendar stopped filling itself with just-in-case meetings. Even my apartment felt lighter, like the walls had more air in them. I didn't get new walls. I became a new tenant. I set a simple rule that looked silly on paper and worked in practice. If it takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. Dishes, messages, stretch, water, prayer. These tiny executions became constant proof that I was the kind of person who finishes what they start. Confidence is not a speech, it's a streak. On day 77, something beautiful and terrifying happened. People started asking me for advice, not the "what app do you use" stuff, the heavier questions. How do you keep going when nobody claps? What do you do when anxiety starts sprinting before your feet hit the floor? I didn't hand them tactics, I handed them truth. You don't need more motivation, you need fewer negotiations. Decide once, protect the decision every day. Stack small wins like bricks in a wall so strong, temptation gets tired of knocking. And when you fail, because you will, fall forward. Catalog what happened, adjust the environment, try again. Drama is expensive, data is free. Then came the finish line that isn't a finish line. Day 90, which sneaks up like a sunrise. No parade, no drum line, just a quiet morning, a body that felt inhabited, a mind that felt clear, a spirit that felt anchored. I laced up and ran the same route as day 1. The buildings were the same, the cracks in the sidewalk were the same. The only thing that changed was the person moving through them. I didn't sprint, I cruised. I didn't check my watch, I checked my breathing. At the halfway mark, I stopped and looked around at nothing in particular, then laughed out loud like a person who just remembered where they put their keys. I wasn't chasing a new me, I had come home to the original. You want numbers? Here are a few, not as trophies, but as receipts. Deep work hours that used to average 45 scattered minutes became a consistent 2 to 3 clean hours daily. Resting heart rate dropped into a range my doctor high-fived. Push-ups that stalled at 12 became 35 crisp, honest reps. Sugar cravings that used to sing siren songs turned into background static I could turn down with water, protein, and sleep. The mirror didn't scream transformation. It whispered, steady. The journal shouted. The handwriting changed. The words maybe and later appeared less, and done appeared more. Anxiety still visited sometimes, but it no longer had a key. It rang the bell, and I decided when to answer. And the most important transformation was the one I can't photograph. Purpose got louder than fear. Putting God first didn't make me perfect, it made me present. Gratitude before goals turned the grind from punishment into privilege. When you see your day as a gift to manage instead of a burden to survive, you start spending it like someone who knows the value of time. That's the kind of wealth nobody can repossess. Let's talk about what I didn't expect. I didn't expect my relationships to upgrade themselves when I upgraded my standards. I didn't expect the simple act of turning my phone off in the morning to make my friendships richer at night. I didn't expect that as my energy rose, the people around me would either rise with me or gently drift out of frame without a fight. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. You can't live at a new frequency and keep broadcasting the old show. And the people who are meant for you don't resent your growth. They expand with it. I also didn't expect how much joy there is in moderation. Not the boring kind. The kind that lets you savor a meal because you earned your appetite. The kind that lets you rest because you spent your effort. The kind that lets you play without guilt because your work was real. This is the secret nobody puts on a poster. Discipline doesn't shrink your life. It sharpens it. When you stop bleeding time, you start tasting it. So where do you enter this story? Right now. I know you want the perfect plan, the perfect split, the perfect app, the exact macros, the right book, the morning routine blessed by 10 million views. I chased all that too. But the reason I'm talking to you like this and from my chest, not a checklist, is because none of those things matter without the one decision that matters. Commitment you can measure, awake time you protect, a movement practice that gets your lungs honest, a deep work window that makes your dream visible, a gratitude practice that puts your soul in order. That's the blueprint that turned a slump into a staircase. If you need a day one from me to borrow strength, take this one. Day one. You pick a time tomorrow morning that would make the old you roll their eyes. You set everything out tonight like a soldier laying gear by the door. You put your phone to sleep in another room. You write down in ink the first 3 actions you will complete before you let the world in. You give the first 60 seconds of the day to gratitude. You move your body until your breath has to tell the truth. You put your most important task on the desk like an altar and you sacrifice distraction on it. Then you do it again the next day and the next. Not because you're chasing a feeling, but because you're building a foundation. Feelings visit, foundations stay. And if you miss, we already know the line. Fall forward. This is not a morality play where you fail a day and get kicked out of the club. This is an experiment you're running on yourself in public. You're the scientist, the subject, the scribe. When something breaks, you don't cry, "I'm broken." You write, "This variable didn't help." You adjust, you rerun, you learn. That's how champions are built in basements nobody sees. There's a reason I keep bringing up Denzel's philosophy, because underneath the speeches is a standard. Dreams without goals are just dreams, and goals require daily, disciplined, consistent action. You can call it a mantra or a mandate. I call it a map. The map doesn't ask if you're in the mood. The map doesn't care if it's raining. The map points, you walk, and one day you look up and realize you are where you said you'd be. Right now, I want you to hear something your younger self needed. You are not behind. You are beloved. You are not late. You are being invited. And the invitation is specific. Take the next 90 days and turn them into a case study, not proof for the haters, proof for the kid in you who still believes. Because here's the quiet miracle of committing to something measurable. Your identity starts to trust you again. The voices get softer. The noise gets quieter. The road gets clearer. Your days stop feeling like you're being dragged and start feeling like you're being led. If this voice is wrapped around your ribs and squeezed a little, good. That's not pressure, that's promise. I want you to do something brave in the next 60 seconds. Type day one in the comments and then add one sentence. The first step you'll take before you sleep tonight, not tomorrow, tonight. Shoes by the door. Alarm set and phone exiled. Bottle filled, journal open, prayer ready. It can be small, it must be real. When you write it down, you make it a contract. When you keep it, you become someone you can count on. And when you become someone you can count on, the world changes color. Subscribe if you need this voice in your ear for the next 90. Not because the algorithm needs us, but because accountability does. I'll be here, in your corner, with new fire every week to re-aim your focus and remind you why you started. Tap like so this message keeps finding you in the mornings when the bed is warm and the ground is cold. Share this with the one friend you know is one serious decision away from becoming unrecognizable in the best way. We're not building a moment, we're building a movement. Before I let you go, I want to paint one last picture that carried me through the final sunrise of day 90. Imagine a theater, empty seats, velvet red, the air thick with dust floating in a beam of projector light. On the screen is you, condensed into 90 scenes. Not perfection, presence. Some scenes are sweaty, some are quiet, some taste like victory, some smell like vinegar. And there in the last frame, you're not crossing a line with fireworks. You're tying your shoes for day 91 like it's day one. The credits roll, the house lights come up. Someone stands in the back and claps slowly, then loudly, then the whole room joins. You turn around and realize it's you, the future you. The one who got to live inside the life you just built, applauding the person who built it. That moment, that's why we start. That's why we keep going when good enough begs us to stop. So answer me, softly, honestly, in the place only you can hear. Will you be the one who takes these next 90 days and turns them into a story your children, your friends, your own heart will talk about when the noise dies down? Or will you let another season slip past while you promise the calendar that next time you'll mean it? Breathe in, shoulders back, chin up, purpose on. The door is open and the floor is yours. And because I want you leaving this video with something you can feel, not just think, here's the echo I repeat when the alarm goes off and the room is still dark. Show up small, finish big. That's it. No drama, no perfection, just presence. Lace up, thank you, let's work. One action, then another. Momentum gathers, confidence compounds, and slowly, beautifully, the person you've been trying to introduce to the world finally meets you in the mirror. If you're still with me, I'm with you. In the comments, say day 1 and the first brick you're laying tonight. In the next video, we're diving into the micro tactics I use to protect my deep work hours like a vault and the recovery rituals that made progress sustainable. The stuff most people skip because it's not flashy, but it's the very thing that keeps you from burning out when you start burning bright. Until then, keep your promises, keep your peace, keep your pace. And remember the question that keeps me honest when the world gets loud. When the future version of you watches the next chapter from the balcony, will they whisper, "That's my person"? Or will they wish you had given yourself just one more honest day? Choose now, then choose again tomorrow.